or his line supervisors in BMTA. So his project may look a lot different than Neat's project. Does that make sense? Right? It probably will. Because he's going to apply something from what he's doing. You can do that. It doesn't matter. You might say, if it's outside of traditional K-12 education, that's okay. Okay? I'm trying to get you to take the ideas we have and apply them. I can't tell you what a good project looks like, because it's really up to what you want to do. But some of the things I suggested in there is to say, okay, try doing a film. Two or three people I think are already in groups who can do a film, right? And the format for a film, I'll give you a simple example. And this discussion I already had with somebody, but you can do this type of thing. To where, okay, there's 3 or 4 in a group, I wouldn't go over 4, okay? You film each other, all right? And then you sit in a room and you critique each other, and you come to some sort of, these are things you can improve on. Okay, so if somebody, let's say somebody was doing it now. They're filming me. Actually, we do have somebody doing it now. Okay, they're filming me, all right? And then they go through it, and then after, let's say Mark's going to do this with me. Mark and I are going to do this in a team, right? So, okay, Mark films me later. I go to Mark's school, I film Mark. Okay? And then either in a film, and somebody asked me, can we do this as part of the film? You can. You can actually sit down and have a group of a list of points to talk over and do it in a film. So if you wanted, and that might look like this. Mark sits down with me and he's written down a list of things. Okay, you could work on your listen-talk ratio. Maybe you're talking a little bit too much and not clarifying with the students enough. Okay? You could work on cueing signals. Like when you're going to finish an activity, sometimes you forget to give them a 2-minute warning. I did that the other day, I forgot. Right? Okay? So you work on cueing systems to tell people. So he's got a list, right? He could either tell me verbally, and I film it, and then that becomes our project. And maybe I write down a few ideas on what I can do to improve. I do the same for him. We got 2 films, and that's our project. Okay. Now a couple of people have said they're already decided they want to do something like that. That's okay, right? Others have said, well, someone said, can I do it on EA? Yes, if you're an EA person and you want to talk about one of these sets of ideas we're talking about from a management point of view, fine. You could do something like a Letterman's Top 10. Okay, if any of you ever watched David Letterman, he's an American comedian, okay, and he just takes, starts with number 10, and his is humorous, it's funny, right? Starts with number 10 and goes to number 1. And he'll do something like the top 10 reasons why Saddam Hussein is a jerk or something. I don't know, whatever. Okay, I hope there's no Iraqis in there like Saddam. But anyway, so you go through the list. Now, you guys aren't doing it for a joke, okay? But you could do that in a film. You could do it as research. You go out, you look at different ways, people's suggestions for teaching social studies. I don't know if you're teaching social studies. In 6th grade. So you talk to all your 6th grade teachers, you compile a list, and you write out the full list of ideas, or maybe in a PowerPoint, and then you distill it down. Based on what we've got, these are the top 10 ideas, starting with number 10, going to number 1. You could do something like that. Okay? You could interview experts. You could do a blog. Now, it's getting late in the scale if you haven't done a single thing yet for a blog, because that takes a little bit of time. But if you set up a blog, kind of like what I did, right, and you invite experts, you could get topics. Maybe put some research papers up there and say, okay, I would like you to go to this blog, please read this paper and make a comment. And you get sort of a comment and discussion going. You can do that. You can do an education Facebook page. It's late for some of those ideas now, because we're getting week 9, week 10. But if you have some ideas already prepared, you can put them on a page and get people to comment on them. Okay? Does that make sense? There's a lot of things you can do. There's very little that if you come up to me and say, can I do this? I probably am not going to say no. I might make a suggestion. Change this a little bit. I know somebody mentioned something about the film idea, and they were just going to kind of just sort of kick it around and discuss it. I said, that's okay for the teaching part, but for the discussion part, I will go through, like I mentioned, if I was doing it with Mark, I will go through and have some notes first. So that if you're going to film it, it's a little smoother. You don't want to be, kind of stumbling around on film, not knowing what you're saying, right? And then, it doesn't quite come out so good. Here's my project. And it's not as good as a result as you could have if you thought about it before, right? So But that's a suggestion on how to improve. I doubt very much. There's almost nothing that I'm going to say, no, that's a terrible project, you can't do it. I would say, I can't see it happen. Okay? Unless you're saying what my plan is to, you know, go down to, I don't know, the Mall Bancapi and sit in front of the Mall Bancapi and count the number of ladies that come in with black miniskirts on. Well, you know, it might not have educational value. It might have other value, okay? But it probably doesn't have educational value. So, you know, but other than that, there's very little I'm going to say no to, okay? Any questions on the project? And you don't have to do 6 or 7 things. Still people are sometimes feel like they got this list. You know, you put this big list in week 1. It says things that might be done. In other words, one of the things, you know, like pick one out. You know, I like this one, I don't like the others. Not all of them. You have to do all 35? No. You don't have to do all 35. What a mean teacher! He's a jerk. No. Maybe I am a jerk, but not for that reason, okay? There's other reasons you can think. Okay, are there any questions? Seriously, okay, all kidding around aside, I want to make sure. Please come and ask me. If you're too shy to talk about it now, that's okay. I respect that. I'm not going to be critical of that. We have our personalities, that's okay. But please come and ask me or send me an email. Don't let yourself, because it's week 9 now, right? Is that right? Week 9, is that correct? Yeah. It's week 9, so you know, you need to have a grip on this and be moving along with it, right? If you're not already. So if you don't know what's going on with it, please ask. Please don't wait any longer, okay? It's already kind of time to get it sort of cracking on that, okay? Yes?
For unit plan, do you have a list of things that you would like to see in the unit plan?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Your unit plan. Is there any format that you follow?
Not really. I mean, I would suggest you look at some of the formats that are out there, okay? But if you look on the rubric, that's what I'm looking for in terms of the project, right? But a specific, in other words, I guess what you're asking is, am I going to say, you know, this unit plan is not work, say you did math. Now, I'm going to look at somebody else's model, for example, Saxon. One of the math models I happen to use is Saxon, so I know how it works, right? If you give me a math unit, am I going to go and say, well, this doesn't follow these ideas from Saxon, so therefore it's wrong, so you don't do as well? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to judge it based on, I'm going to grade it, like of course, but the criterion I'll use is what's in the rubric. So if it's internally consistent, does that make sense? Let's say you're doing a Montessori math unit. I'm just making it up. Okay, that would be for younger kids, right? Sort of 4 or 5-year-olds. So you're going to do a Montessori math unit. And so you have manipulatives. You have the kids, you know, working with different manipulatives and so on. Now, one of the criticisms that made in Montessori is that it's not social enough because the kids don't interact with each other so much. They just interact with the materials and with the teacher. So I might make note of that, but I'm not going to score you down for that because that's a limitation of the Montessori model. Does that make sense? And you've chosen to use that model, which is an acceptable model, right, for your unit. So that wouldn't be fair for me. I might mention it, say just be alert to this limitation, right? But I'm not going to knock you down. Does that make sense? Okay, so as long as you use, if you're consistent within what you're doing, right, you're fine. Does that make sense? Okay, good question. Anything else? So hopefully we're okay on Foundations Project. I keep hearing all these rumors. Nobody understands. Okay, hopefully we understand. Okay, so what I want to try and do here is I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to make this as interactive as possible as we look at the Postman reading. I'm really going to hope that everybody's read it because this is one of those ones that I don't really want to just come up here and lecture about it because. I mean, first of all, I really like this guy. I mean, you probably guessed that because he's a little bit out in left field on some ideas. He's not sort of a traditionalist that says, okay, get your kids sitting in rows and beat them up if they make too much noise and so on. And the other thing is, again, which is probably a criticism you may come up with, so I'll just say right in advance, both of these guys come from the higher ed, right? Stevenson and Postman. However, what we're talking about is the ideas you can use universally. Now, the truth is that probably we could put some other people in there. But I picked these guys because of their strength and because a lot of it has universal applications. If you look at things like the passion for teaching, or you look at the what you call a lifelong learner, always learning from last week, talking about the reading from last week, those ideas pretty much apply right across. In a lot of cases, when you get into educators, ideas will only be specific. You know, they'll work with the kinder group, or they'll work with the second, third grade group. Some ideas only work with the high school group. And those ideas are fine, but what we have in here is we have a real cross-section. Right? I mean, let's just do this right now. Who is teaching kindergarten here? Okay? Kindergarten. Who is teaching adults? Who works with adults? You do, Lauren, right? Your hand should be up. Right? Adults, right? Who works in high school? And who works with middle grades, middle school, 6, 7, 8? Okay? Who is working with elementary? See that? So we have a spread. We have all the way from kinder to adults. Right? So sometimes we have to pick ideas that are universally applicable. So that's kind of why I picked on some of the ones that we're using here. Okay? What I want you to do with Postman, I'm going to give you a few minutes. And I want you to try to do this. There are basically, if you look at this piece, the Postman piece, and this is recycled, guys, so I'm not breaking my philosophy. Okay, this is somebody else's dissertation. Okay, written some of it in Thai. I couldn't read all of it when I did it. Anyway, so this is recycled. Okay. Anyway, what I want you guys to do is see if you can do your informal groupings again, and I'm going to give you maybe 3 to 5 minutes. That's all. What I want you to do is I want you to figure out what the 3 ideas are in this piece. So if you didn't read it, please group yourself with someone that read it. Okay? All right? And then borrow from their brain trust. So do that now. Talk for about 3 minutes to 5 minutes. There's 3 main ideas in this. 3 main ideas this guy's trying to get across. And I want to see if you picked out what those 3 main ideas are. So take a few minutes right now. Talk with your buddies and see if you see that. See, if everybody knows what they are, where we can be done in 5 minutes, we just go home. Just kidding. All right, guys, let's try to look at this. All right, let's bring it back into our main group now. 3 thoughts. Okay, so what is the first one? Now I've put up 3 sort of circles. We're going to try to, I've got a reason I did that, because we're going to try to look at interrelationships, right, between these ideas. Okay, they are interrelated. They connect to each other. So I put sort of 3 bubbles on the board. If we're going to fill in these 3 bubbles, what would we put in them? All right? Got some ideas for me. Dennis, right? Mark. See that? Did it again. Okay, Mark, what do you think? What was one of the ideas?
Yes, as I have read in. I have got first idea is everyone makes error.
Sorry? Everyone what?
Error.
Okay, errors, okay, right. Errors are universal. I'll go along with that. I'm going to put that at the bottom. But these aren't in any particular order. However, I think that's sort of a grouping idea that can take in the others. So we're going to put that one in the bottom circle. Errors are universal. Right. Did everybody see that idea coming out? Anybody confused on that one, right? Errors are universal. And then he talks about, let's go into some detail on that in a minute. We'll hold that for now. We'll just leave it as errors are universal. What's another one? That was probably the last of the 3 that Postman talked about. What was either the first or the second one he talked about? I'll give you a hint.
Textbooks are evil.